Hey everybody, it's the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Perriente. We are the hosts of Downtown Sports, your podcast home for everything New York sports. And if you haven't heard, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let us explain. First off, it's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Then Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Here's what you guys need to do. You need to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. Once again, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Let your voice be heard. Be the voice of the voiceless. Anchor.fm.
Ladies and gentlemen, school might be out, but we've got some grades for you. It's Downtown Sports. I'm John Schiavone, the Mouth of the South, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Perriente. And we got a report card. I know you're not used to seeing report cards anymore because most of your kids are home from school, but don't worry. We actually have grades that will have letters next to them, unlike the kids in New York City schools this year. We'll actually have letter grades for you. We're actually going to grade the Jets and the Giants draft. John Perriente, let's get started.
Amen. Here we go. Wow. So the NFL draft is over. 3 days, 7 rounds, over 250 picks. The Jets and Giants had to address needs. They had to address what to address in this offseason going into the 2020 regular season, if it starts on time. Now, normally, as a Jet fan in particular, I would have been very upset with whatever the Jets drafted. I would have been shooting the general manager in the head. I would have said, what the hell are the Jets doing?
John would not have been shooting Joe Douglas in the head. I promise all of you listening, John will not shoot Joe Douglas in the head, okay?
In round 2, I was thinking about it. John
is not a member of the NRA. John does not own guns.
No. Thank goodness I don't.
Just letting everybody know that, because if he did, he might go shoot Joe Douglas.
But Joe Douglas, I will give credit to where credit is due.
What?
He had to address important needs that the team needed.
You were giving him credit?
Yes.
Why are you giving him credit? The Jets never deserve credit. They always do terribly. What did they do this time?
Because Joe Douglas actually addressed the needs the Jets needed to have. He didn't pull a John Idzik. He didn't pull a Mike Tannenbaum. He didn't pull a Mike McCagnon.
And who was the guy before all that? Wasn't he terrible too?
Oh, Idzik didn't even spend money.
No,
Idzik wouldn't even spend a dime.
The guy before Tannenbaum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he didn't. Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh, hold on. Wasn't that when Mangini was in control of both the roster and the team?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the year of Tannenbaum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
One of the worst. Okay, but now we have Joe Douglas. And you know what? This guy, and this is what I respect about him. He learned very well how to become a good general manager because he sat behind Ozzie Newsome of the Ravens for several years, learned great skills from Ozzie, how to draft the right talent, how to find character guys, and he went out and got the character players that are going to be on this Jet team. So I can assure you of this year, if you're a Jet fan, there's going to be no egos. There's going to be no us. It's not going to be about me. It's about the team, in the words of Mike Singletary.
Oh, so you mean it's going to be all about Adam Gase?
Well, it's going to be up to Adam Gase to actually make this work.
Yeah.
Now Adam Gase has no excuses.
Yeah, the fact that you're actually saying now Adam Gase has no excuses, Adam Gase had no excuse when he had Le'Veon Bell and Sam Darnold in the same offense.
Yeah, but Sam had no O-line. Jets now have addressed the O-line. Sam didn't have a deep threat wide receiver other than Robbie Anderson. Now the Jets went out and drafted one and have at least 2 other receivers that Sam can get the ball to pretty consistently with an O-line that can at least protect him and he won't get sacked.
So
big difference.
So you don't think the offensive line that was young back then could have actually, learned how to protect better if they were running the ball with Bell 20 times a game?
Hey, man, we never could know, but the Jets needed to upgrade that O-line. It was in disarray. The Jets had a lot of aging talent. They had talent that just did not live up to the expectation of being that O-line presence that could protect their quarterback. How many times did you see Sam Darnold having to scramble out of the pocket, constantly getting knocked to the ground, running for his life like an Eli Manning?
Wow, that's a low blow right there.
I'm sorry, I had to say it.
That's
Because how many times did Eli ever get protected? He ran around like a wild man.
Seriously, from 2011 to 2019, Eli should have been known as a track star, not a quarterback. Because all he was doing was running away from defenders, but I digress. Continue on with your team, John.
To be fair, though, Sam Darnold at least is a good running quarterback as well, so he can at least run when he has to. That's fine. But anyway, so the Jets went out, started with the 11th pick in the draft. They drafted Mekhi Becton out of Louisville, which was interesting because the Jets could have had a wide receiver, a top flight one in that round.
I told y'all.
Jerry Jeudy was still on the board.
I told y'all.
Ruggs was still on the board.
I told y'all.
CeeDee Lamb was still on the board.
Yeah. Y'all.
But you know what? This was a bold move. It was a bold move. It was a bold move by Joe Douglas to draft the O-line first. And videos I've seen of Mekhi Becton are incredible. 360-plus pounds, 6'7". Guy ran a 5'1" at the combine for a guy his size. How many times do you see an O-lineman run a 5'1" at 360 pounds? It's a rare talent to find somebody that has that talent. And more importantly, when this guy blocks, oh boy, does he block. He knocks 270-pound linemen straight on their butt.
Told y'all.
All right. Now, he did have an issue with a failed drug test, and that did raise a red flag. Maybe that's why he fell to the Jets as he did.
So dude smoked some weed, and they let him fall to the 11th pick.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? The Browns were at number 10. They could have gotten Becton. They got Jedrick Wills.
Well, no, the Browns have too many problems with people who smoke weed on their team. So,
that's probably why they didn't go after him.
Yeah, that would have been like another problem right there. But the fact of the matter is now, at this point, in 2017, isn't marijuana use even like not even considered illegal drug anymore?
Yeah, they're changing that in the collective bargaining agreement. That's going to be a new change next year. They're not going to be as strict with that anymore.
So the Jets actually, for the first time in their history, instead of looking at somebody and saying, "Oh, they're a drug addict, we're going to pass on them," and then drafting somebody useless, I'll give you 2 times in history where the Jets did that. Richard Todd. Everybody back then called him Dick because that's all he was. Oh, Dick Todd through another intersection. Oh,
that's just the short name for Richard.
Yeah, they just called him a dick constantly. They didn't mean Richard, let me tell you. After every interception that he threw, they must have been saying to themselves, you know what? When we found those positive drug tests for Dan Marino, I would have given him whatever substance it was until the high heavens for what Dan Marino did for the Miami Dolphins. I think the next example, I don't know who the Jets had drafted that year instead, but didn't they pass on Warren Sapp because of a drug test?
Yeah, that was way back. The Jets were a different team back then. It was Chad Pennington, all that stuff. It was a different team back then with Tannenbaum and with Woody running things instead of now his son running it. So it was a little different.
So basically now the Jets have done a complete 180 from everything that they've ever done as an organization.
Yeah.
And they draft the kid that everybody let fall because, he might be a little bit of a disciplinary problem because he liked to burn trees. I mean, let's be real. The guy, truthfully, if you're going to the NFL Combine and you know that's a rule and you know making millions and millions of dollars could potentially be on the line for you, why would you show up to the Combine with anything in your system besides Fiji water?
That's a great question. That's a very good question.
So, I mean, Becton might fail the idiot test there, but other than that, I mean, as long as it's not like, he's on steroids or he's using like, methamphetamines or taking like, I don't know, heroin or cocaine or whatever the heck else. Seriously, in 2020, weed is the least thing that anybody's really worried about, especially the NFL.
To be fair, Becton sounds like a very humble young man. This sounds like a guy that will not make the mistake he did again. That's at least my impression when I heard him speak. At least
not until the new collective bargaining agreement is in effect after game 1. Listen, Becton, day one. Listen, I understand. It's going to hurt for a while during training camp because you're still under the old protocol. After you play the first game, roll up, blow out, do what you want. Just don't do it before the new collective bargaining agreement.
Fair enough.
My God, Josh Gordon, literally, this man has about a few more months to go before he can play NFL football again because the one thing he keeps getting kicked out for is now legal in the game.
Yep. All right, let's go down the board and see the other Jet picks that followed after Mr. Becton. The Jets went 48th in round 2, only to trade that pick and go 11 spots down, and the Seattle Seahawks took the Jets' 48th pick. So by this round, the remaining couple of big-name prospects were off the board. Michael Pittman Jr., he went number 2 to the Colts. The number 1 pick was T. Higgins in that round. He went over to Cincinnati. And then a couple other wide receivers did go off the board. Not the big-name ones that, maybe the Jets were going to go after. But the big one that was on the board, and I was thinking, why is Joe Douglas doing this? You're right there. You could get your guy right now. They waited. But Denzel Mims did fall to the Jets at number 59, the wide receiver out of Baylor, and he's widely regarded as a very athletic wide receiver, a very solid 6'3", about 215 pounds, so he has a good height to him. Some of the athletic plays he makes could be very important for a quarterback like Sam Darnold. Sometimes you're never going to get the ball to the quarterback, to the wide receiver 100%. He may have to go up and make a hard catch to get the ball down.
Yeah,
Mims could do that.
That's your hands guy. That's your hands guy right now. Mims, to me, is your hands guy. If you are the Jets, Sam Darnold now has a wide receiver with a set of hands that aren't made of stone. Look, I like Robbie Anderson. He was exciting. He was also a lot of trouble off the football field, yes. A lot more headache than he was worth, and he dropped way too many passes to be considered a number 1 receiver.
He didn't even go after certain throws. I sometimes didn't see him make that effort.
Because he can't make those catches. Like, his hands are not magical. We're not talking about, the Michael Irvins of the world here when we're referring to Robbie Anderson, okay? We're not even talking about the Victor Cruzes of the world when we were talking about Robbie Anderson. Let's be truthful here. What you got in Mims is a 6'3" kid who weighs about 20 to 25 more pounds than any player who's going to be covering him, unless you're sticking a slot safety or a linebacker on the guy, in which case he'll shred that player. And then if you're putting a corner on him, all you got to do if you're Darnold is throw to the high shoulder. And that's it. He's at least 3 to 4 inches taller than anyone he's playing against, and he weighs about 20 pounds more than anybody he's playing against. Also, he runs as fast as any of the players that he's playing against.
That's the big thing. Have a good speedster that can go down the field, get open. That's something Darnold needed to have and didn't have in his first 2 years. Now he has the opportunity to really take advantage of a guy with speed like this and can get deep down the field.
The thing is, Mims is not really a speed guy. The thing is, he can keep up with the corners that are playing with him. The corners are not going to blow him away. He's not going to blow the corners away. The difference with Mims is he is 3 to 4 inches taller and weighs about 20 pounds more than anybody else who is running stride for stride with him in the first place. So it doesn't matter if he's double covered almost. Literally, all you got to do is throw high. Who's going to catch it other than him?
Yeah. Well, that's what makes this move good. What also helped, by going further down in the draft, the Jets were then able to pick 9 picks later at the start of the 3rd round. And this is where they upgraded their defense. They got Ashton Davis, a safety out of California.
You mean the Jamal Adams replacement?
Oh, we don't know if he's a Jamal. The Jets have already picked up the option on Adams, so he will play this year. He will be a Jet this year.
So next year he's going to be the Jamal Adams replacement.
We'll see. The Jets are doing everything to make sure Jamal Adams stays a Jet, and Joe Douglas has addressed that.
You do realize Jamal Adams is not going to stay a Jet, right?
Let's see what happens. Maybe if the Jets can really put up a good season this year, that might change his mind. Maybe Adams will then want to stay.
Or if they fire Adam Gase, he'll stay. I'm pretty sure about that.
But you cannot let Jamal Adams go. You have to be crazy to let him go. This guy is still young, 2-3 years in the league, and you're just gonna now we can't pay him anymore, so let's just let him go and we'll try to pick up some cheap safety that sucks.
No. And this is what Joe Douglas' strategy is, because if Adam Gase has any sort of success this year, he's gonna be on for next year. If Adam Gase has a sub 500 season of any sort, if he goes 7-9, 6-10, Adam Gase is out. And then you
Very
actually keep Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams. So if I'm the Jets, I'm looking at it like this. If my team wins, Adams and Le'Veon Bell stay. That means they've worked it out with Gaze. If they don't win, that means Adams and Le'Veon Bell will stay because Gaze will be gone.
I figured Davis was going to be more of an upgrade for Marcus May, who constantly has gotten hurt on the Jets. He's their other safety. I figure at least Davis could fill the role of what Marcus May does, and then you have Jamal Adams to the left of him there.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
No, that's what you're going to see this year. But eventually, what the Jets want to see is this kid, and I don't know why. Literally, when I heard this draft pick, every news, sports outlet in the world is rating him. They're talking about this kid like he's rated higher than Joe Burrow was, okay? They're talking about him. He can do everything. He can play 57 different positions, quarterback your team, wear a hoodie on the sideline, coach, have the iPad. In fact, he could clone himself to be your entire team. That's literally how they were speaking about this kid.
Well,
what is the hype behind him?
Well, from what I've seen in videos, this guy is a hard hitter. This guy, like when he hits that punt returner, when he hits that receiver, he delivers a punishing hit, like a Jim Leonard type of safety. Something the Jets haven't had in quite some time. You want to have a player that has that little physicality, that little edge to his game. And again, Joe Douglas, from what I'm seeing with his pattern, he wants guys with high character. And it really seems like he has a habit of picking guys that have a chip on their shoulder now. Not guys that are just in here because, I was expected to be the number one draft pick. These are guys that, you know what? Wherever I fall, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. When was the last time you heard somebody with that mentality on the Jets? Ever?
Pennington. That team. LaDainian Tomlinson was that kind of guy when he came to the Jets. He would he would just do whatever the team needed him to do.
That was 7-8 years ago. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
with LT. 8 years ago.
Rex Ryan was like the last accountable coach they ever had. Todd Bowles was a joke. Now Gaze is a laughingstock, unless he could. I don't know. I don't know. Just to me, I don't know how a guy gets 2 head coaching jobs off of getting coffee for Peyton Manning.
Good question.
Literally, that could be all he did. But then again, you hear the Jets quarterback. You hear Sam Darnold talking about, I love Adam Gase. Adam Gase is the coach for me. Me and him have such a strong bond. I want to play for Adam Gase. He came out very strongly about that. Meanwhile, Le'Veon Bell probably is looking at Sam Darnold going, yeah, good job sucking up to the coach. I hate this guy. But
let's go through the remainder. Let's go through the remainder of the picks for the round. Then they drafted Jabari Zuniga out of Florida to help their defensive line to be like a pass rusher. Okay pick. It's not the greatest pick, but I think we'll see what he can do. But they think he could maybe start down the road.
Once you're down past round 3, it's a crapshoot.
Well, the Jets then drafted a running back in the 4th round, and he will serve as a backup to Le'Veon Bell in LaMichael Pirine.
Okay.
He's not a big guy. He's 5'11", but one thing he has talent of is he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Which is something not many running backs have.
Oh, so they're trying to get like a sort of like a Bilal Powell replacement. Somebody.
Yeah, Bilal Powell's not a Jet anymore. Bilal Powell's gone. He's not a Jet anymore.
Yeah, so here's the Bilal Powell replacement.
Yeah, so Pirine will serve as a perfect backup. This guy was a team captain in Florida, so this is a guy with leadership qualities that I think I'm going to really like to see having the ball in the backfield with Le'Veon Bell. And he'll have Le'Veon to learn from, which is really, I think, the best thing for him.
And Le'Veon Bell is one of those kinds of guys that will actually show the younger running backs behind him what's real and what's good. Like, he'll actually help them out. People on the Steelers have said as much. Yeah.
Then the Jets went in the 4th round and surprisingly took a quarterback in the 4th round, 125, with James Morgan.
Why?
Florida International.
Why is that a surprise?
It's interesting because, I guess the Jets, I can understand partly why they did this. They wanted to upgrade the quarterback situation because look what happened in the Browns game earlier. Remember what happened? Darnold got hurt. Then you had Simeon get hurt. Then you had to throw Falk in there. He had to carry the load for a couple of weeks, and he was clearly not ready.
And
that's where the Jets...
Yeah, and the Jets blamed them not making the playoffs on Sam Darnold getting mono. So now they wanted to bring in somebody that they feel is maybe a step or 2 below Sam that could go in and run the offense while Sam is hurt or if he gets mono. I don't know. You know what? It would be Sam Darnold's luck that he would be the Jet that gets diagnosed with the coronavirus in 2020 when the season happens.
Yeah.
I just expect it. Listen, the guy caught mono. I don't know. So,
Well, this wasn't a very highly graded pick. This was like a C- pick with Morgan. So we'll see.
Well,
we'll
look,
see
it's
what
a
he
backup.
becomes.
He's a backup. He's
Yeah.
a guy that's not NFL ready. Let him sit behind Sam Darnold. Let him watch NFL defenses, and let's see what he can develop
Yeah.
into.
I'm fine with that.
Hopefully, you never have to know who the kid is.
Yeah. All right, then moving on. The Jets drafted another lineman at 129 with Cameron Clark out of Charlotte. Good guy, 308 pounds. Again, another piece for the O-line that could really prove to be very important because the Jets continue to build up their O-line and protect Sam. Then we go to the 5th round. The Jets drafted another cornerback. They needed some help in the secondary. They got Bryce Hall out of Virginia. This guy did have a bad injury, a dislocated ankle in October, but when he's healthy, he could be a really solid addition on the secondary and somebody the Jets needed to address. They've had a lot of weaknesses at the cornerback position for years, and we'll see, I guess, what Bryce Hall could become. But I think this was a steal for the Jets to get him as late as they did. And then in the 6th round, the Jets went special teams. They drafted a punter, Braden Mann, out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's something that is extremely weird. You don't hear or see kickers or punters getting drafted that often. What's so special with this kid that he actually made it through during, like, the actual draft class?
I'll explain it. First, he won the Ray Guy Award, which is an award that goes to the best punter in college. It was named for a punter named Ray Guy, who played in the NFL. What Mann is able to do, he has the incredible ability to have a good leg. And sometimes, in a football game, special teams could play a very big role in a game where your opponent could start with the football, and that's what Mann is able to do. He's one of the best punters to come out of college. They basically compared him to Shane Leckler. He has the ability
that's what I was about to say.
really pin the ball deep in your opponent's territory, make him start from like the 1 or the 2 yard line.
I was about to say, is this kid a Leckler? Like, is he a Shane Leckler type?
That's what they're comparing him to. He was the best punter to come out of college.
Well, you know what? Special teams is some of the. I never understood why really good kickers and really good punters didn't get drafted very high. Because to me, it's like, imagine now. Here's a question for later on the show.
The Patriots drafted a kicker.
Here'd be something we could think about.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Tell me, what do you think would be a number 1 pick nowadays? Hold on. If you had these two players were the best players in the draft. Starting left tackle, who's 360 pounds and 6'5" with incredible speed. Or a place kicker who could actually hit 70-yard field goals 70% of the time.
It's a good debate. I would say the offensive line guy. As much as I would love the kicker, again, you can find kickers you can find. You can take a veteran kicker, you can find one out of college, but kickers always fall in the late portion of a draft. They don't fall in the round 1. They don't fall in round 2.
I know, but like, could you imagine somebody that could literally stand on the 50-yard line at half field and kick a field goal successfully?
Yeah, that'd be pretty impressive.
To me, I'd almost draft that in the first round if I saw it, because to me, that's like, could you imagine that? Literally for the 50-yard line, all you'd have to do is move the ball 30 yards to score 3 points.
And this is another thing Mann does. I want to bring this up. He was also good at doing kickoffs. So the Jets are probably going to use him for kickoffs just as well as punting. And more importantly, here, this is his college career.
Okay.
He averaged 49 yards per punt in college. That is huge.
That's insane.
That means he has a good leg.
NFL
You could be
kickers.
back at your 1 and pin him. You could be back at your 1 yard line. He could kick it all the way down.
Shane Leckler doesn't average 49 yards a punt, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this Mann guy will. And that is scary. And I think this is a very quietly good pick for the Jets special teams.
Oh, the Jets defense and their secondary just got a lot of assistance, because if you could pin a team back that far, running the football almost makes no sense. There. So you're going to have to pass. So the secondary plays improve via situational football anyway at that point. And then with the Jets draft picks that they've put into the secondary over the past couple of years, you might have something there.
We shall see. The Jets had a 7th-round pick, but traded it. They got another cornerback in Quincy Wilson, an ex-Colt. So they continued to upgrade and add pieces and add depth where they needed it. So overall, if I had to grade this draft for the Jets, I'm going to give it about a B+. They addressed the important needs. There were a couple of picks, maybe if I were the Jets, I wouldn't have really done. But overall, this is a better draft than the Jets have had in about 20 years, at least. And I give Joe Douglas credit for how he approached the draft, his approach, how patient he was, willing to move down, willing to kind of just, take his time and wait for his pieces to come to him. And that's pretty huge. It's good that we have now a good future position now at the general manager, that we have somebody competent that actually knows what he's doing.
That's a rarity for you guys. Unfortunately, I still seem to be stuck. Let's move on to the New York Giants. So,
yes. Interesting draft for them.
The most debated pick is their first pick, which is Andrew Thomas. Now, I mean, as long as the Shane Herbert rumor didn't happen, I guess I'm happy. But when I was looking at these 4 tackles, Andrew Thomas was the one that I knew Gettleman would pick, only because Gettleman needed somebody that was NFL ready, who has played NFL-style offenses. Here's the thing. Andrew Thomas might not be the guy with the biggest ceiling, but he's definitely coming in as the best player right now.
Yep.
Who could actually play in the NFL right now, who could actually guard, who could probably play left tackle right now.
He was talked about as one of the better safeties. They talked about him as one of the better offensive linemen. I'm sorry.
Better safeties.
Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, well,
sorry, I meant offensive line. My apologies for that.
No, I mean, well, the safety, we're going to talk about the safety next. But you know what? Out of all the linemen that were there, I know Jedrick Willis was the guy that everybody was expecting the Giants to draft. Thomas is a Gettleman pick. I know Gettleman said, oh, Joe Judge is going to be in the room with me and all this other stuff. You could go through this list, and I could tell you which one is a Joe Judge pick and which one is a Gettleman pick. Round 1, Andrew Thomas, that is a Gettleman pick through and through. That's a guy who's all about, oh, this is the culture. This is a culture kid, straight A student. Like, here's a gold star for him. He's always been the best in the class. He's always been a top person, charitable works out there in the community. That's the kind of kid Andrew Thomas is. That's the kind of culture that Dave Gettleman has been trying to put forward. I mean, that was the excuse for the Odell Beckham trade back when. So, yeah, there's why you have Andrew Thomas. Out of all the 4 linemen, you really can't separate them by too much. You never know. Go with the kid that fits your organizational credo better. I understand the pick, but that is a Gettleman pick.
Okay. Then we mentioned the safety. The Giants then drafted Xavier McKinney out of Alabama.
That was a Joe Judge pick. That was a Joe Judge pick through Saban, through his connections and all of that. Yeah. Xavier McKinney was definitely a Joe Judge target.
Let's see how he pans out in New York.
But the other thing is, I'm glad we got Xavier McKinney because now we actually have somebody to start alongside of Jabril Peppers.
That'd be huge. The Giants had a very interesting pattern with this draft, and as we go down the board, you're going to find out what that is momentarily for those listening in. Then the Giants drafted Matt Pert out of UConn, another offensive tackle with the 99th pick.
They need offensive linemen. They needed offensive linemen. For the first time, I actually see more than one O-lineman in the first 3 rounds on a Giants draft board. This is unreal to me.
And the number will keep going. Next, another cornerback got drafted, Darnay Holmes out of UCLA.
Yeah,
110th pick.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think Darnay Holmes is going to end up being a corner in the NFL. I think you're going to see him a lot. I think he's your nickel guy right now. If you're going to slot him in anywhere on this defense, he's your nickel guy. He's your blitz package person, cover / safety type kid. He's got some look. He can hit. I mean, if you've seen video on the kid, he can hit.
Well, maybe down the road that could earn him something. Again, depending on if he can impress at camp, maybe our idea of maybe he won't make it in the NFL could be a forgotten footnote. Who knows? Then came the 150th pick, another offensive lineman. They drafted Shane Lemieux, the guard, out of Oregon.
Look, they need an entire fleet of new offensive linemen. Their starters weren't that good. And unlike the Jets, the Giants' backups were actually worse than the starters. So, literally, this entire O-line needed to be revamped. And if they didn't pick 3 offensive linemen in this draft, I would have been a very angry mouth.
Yeah.
I'm actually not mad at this.
Yep. And then finally, the remaining 5 picks the 4 of the last 5 picks were linebackers. Cam Brown out of Penn State in the 6th round. Carter Coughlin in the 7th round. Brunson out of South Carolina. T.J. Brunson in the 7th round. And then the Giants also had the very last pick of the entire draft, getting Tay Crowder out of Georgia. And then in between that, another cornerback, Chris Williamson out of Minnesota.
I mean,
all defense the Giants drafted pretty much if you take away the O-line. It was all defense.
yeah, and not a wide receiver in sight.
Which is kind of curious. I kind of wonder why the Giants didn't go after a wide receiver, or unless they're maybe trying to look for one in free agency.
I mean, unless they're going to keep Golden Tate.
Well, Golden Tate is is an elite talent. He still has speed. He could still do things for you. We'll see where that goes.
I think the Giants are actually really. I think they are interested in keeping Golden Tate. I think they're gonna do with because right now Tate can only sign with what? He can only sign with the Giants. If he's not, and if in free agency he's not picked up after July 26th, it becomes a situation where he could sign only with the Giants until after Week 10, kind of like what the Patriots did with LeGarrette Blount last year. No.
Yeah. Right now, again, he's 31 years old now, is Golden Tate, so he's getting into like the peak of his career now. So you think maybe he has like another good year or two maybe left in him.
I mean, at this point, the way I see Tate is the Giants need to keep him because they need somebody alongside Sterling Shepard. Shepard is the only guy they have. I cannot trust Evan Ingram to stay on the field long enough for me to count him as an actual weapon for Daniel Jones.
You also have Slayton. He proved himself over the end of the year, Slayton, to be another good receiver for them.
Yeah,
and he's become a favorite target for Daniel Jones.
Well, we'll see if that continues, but at this point, I need proven targets for a kid. I need an O-line to block this kid. So finally, it seems like we finally took care of that problem. We'll see, though. But at least
it's a whole new team under Joe Judge. This is a whole new team with Joe Judge.
At least it's finally been addressed. For the first time since 2011, I could legitimately say that over a 2-year period, the Giants actually addressed the offensive line. This is a first.
Now let's see how they go about with it.
Yeah, now, to grade this draft.
Yeah, what would you say for the Giants?
C+, and here's why.
C+?
Here's why.
Okay.
You hit every note you needed to hit. It's as if you were watching something like this was done in a very cookie cutter manner. Take the offensive tackle in the 1st round. We all knew that. The safety in round 2, that was the shock to me. I thought the Giants could and should have participated in the wide receiver blitz of players. The Giants at 36. Who was still on the board at the 36th pick at the wide receiver position, John?
Denzel Mims was still there. Shanuska Lenault, I forgot his name. Claypool was another name up there. Hamler was another name available at that point. And the Giants didn't go after any of them.
Yeah, that to me is a little quizzical. But you know what? That shows what Joe Judge and Gettleman seem to agree on. Pound the football. That seems to be a theme with both of these guys. I think they agree here because 3 offensive linemen in the first 5 rounds. I give it a C only because if you were going to address any position in this defense, it needed to be the linebacking core.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
First linebacker should not be a 6th rounder out of Penn State.
Well, Penn State doesn't produce the greatest players, unfortunately. It's not been known to have the best players come out of Penn State. You go to like Louisiana, you go to like LSU, they produce good talent, Alabama.
To me, and the thing that I look at here is the fact that they didn't address the linebacking core until round 6. Now, good job drafting all these offensive linemen, but I didn't need Darnay Holmes at a corner, unless you're thinking of playing him as a, safety-ish position, something like that, a nickel corner. Why wasn't that a linebacker?
Well,
that's my first question.
We're going to learn as we go here how Joe Judge wants this team to play. Now, being that he was a Bill Belichick product, he came from New England. I'm sure he adapted some of Bill Belichick's philosophies for how to build a good team throughout offense or defense. Now, Belichick is a very defensive type guy. He was a defensive coordinator before he became a head coach. So if you ask me, Judge might be bringing that same mindset of Bill Belichick with drafting a lot of defense and kind of just mixing and matching with the offense sort of as we go.
Yeah, the only problem with that strategy is you don't have Tom Brady as your quarterback, nor do you have Eli Manning on your roster anymore. So you can't tell me that, it's okay for Daniel Jones to maybe have like Golden Tate and that's it. I think the entire linchpin of this Giants offense this year is Golden Tate. And the fact that you're still relying on Golden Tate to be your big play receiver after an entire 2020 offseason, including an NFL draft, to me, C+. And,
the O-line will help also. Saquon Barkley will have room to run. With a good O-line now, Barkley can really do his stuff.
For the first time in years, a Giants running back will have a friggin' offensive line to run behind. But the problem is, that's great that Saquon's actually going to get get 2 or 3 yards before he gets touched for the first time, and yeah, that's a wonderful thing. But I still don't like the idea that you're relying on a 31-year-old semi-prima donna in Golden Tate as your number one receiver. You could sell me Sterling Shepard as much as you want. You could tell me that Sterling Shepard is the number one receiver on this team. It is not true. If you really want to say who is the number one receiver on this team, it's Saquon Barkley. But in terms of wide receivers, that's Golden Tate. 31-year-old Golden Tate is not a number one receiver that's going to help you in this much more powerful NFC East.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something. Every team in this division has gotten a lot better. And the fact, Dallas Cowboys draft Lamb. That was the last thing the Giants needed to see.
They also drafted Trayvon Diggs for their secondary, the brother of Stephon Diggs. That's pretty scary too. But here's the thing with the Cowboys, and this will be curious because the Cowboys get all this talent.
Oh, Cam Newton's going to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, we don't even know that yet. Is that true?
Oh,
official?
Not official, but just to ease the minds of Cam Newton fans who think he's going to be a backup somewhere. Yeah, he's not going to be a backup to anything. Dallas has been looking to get rid of Dak Prescott like a bad case of crabs. So, I think Cam Newton is a big upgrade over Dak Prescott. So, I don't know. I would think Cam might be in Dallas to start the year.
Yeah, very possible. Again, right now Cam has not been listed yet in any trades as of yet. Jameis Winston already has found a new team. He's going to go to New Orleans.
Yep, he is going to go to New Orleans. And New Orleans also drafted a quarterback in this draft as well, did they not?
Let me take a look. I do know the Saints
I know the kid is like a quarterback, but he can play all over the field. It's like,
oh yeah, that's what's his name? I'm trying to get the name. Taysom Hill. There we go. That's Taysom Hill.
Yeah, he's sort of like Antoine Randall L.
The Saints only had 4 picks, and they did draft a quarterback in the 7th round, Tommy Stevens out of Mississippi State. I don't know very much about him. They drafted a center in round 1, which was interesting, in Cesar Ruiz, so somebody that could really snap the ball and be a good blocking presence on the snap of the football and protect the quarterback. That was a good addition for New Orleans and for Coach Payton. They also took a tight end in round 3. They took Adam Troutman out of Dayton, and then they drafted a linebacker in Zach Bond out of Wisconsin. They didn't have too many. They only had 4 picks or so in the whole draft, did the Saints, but
they made a lot of noise with the players that they did pick.
Yeah. Sean Payton knows how to pick good players. Sean Payton knows talent when he sees it.
Yep. So let's get back to our New York Giants for a second. I graded them a C+, and reason I do that is because there is very little to no addressing of weapons for Daniel Jones. And as much as you want to say, well, Saquon is the ultimate weapon, yeah, that's great. Well, we got blockers for them, so that means our offensive talent should shine through. How do we know what we actually have when Jones can't stay on his feet? That makes sense. So everybody who's saying that the Giants are a little further along than the Jets in their rebuild process, first off, I think you're all crazy. I think the Jets are a little further along than the Giants, except for one very important department, and that's head coach. I think head coach is what makes the Jets a 7-9, 6-10 team, and head coach is what's going to make the Giants a 9-7, 10-6 team.
Well, we're definitely going to see. I mean, the Jets are not going to have an easy schedule this year. They're taking on the AFC and the NFC West. So they're going to take on the likes of Pat Mahomes. They're going to take on Russell Wilson. They're going to take on the Rams. All the big boy teams on the West Coast are going to present a big challenge for the Jets this year. The Giants, if I can pull up their little schedule very quickly.
I'm about to do that same thing. So
I think they might have a slightly easier schedule than that of the Jets.
They do. We start off with the Baltimore Ravens, then the Chicago Bears, the Bengals, then Dallas. I'd say, in fact, let me just go through it really quick. Ravens.
That's the AFC and the NFC North.
Yeah,
good luck.
I mean, look, I'd rather that than the AFC and NFC West, that's for sure. At least I could play wonderful teams like the Chicago Bears and get instant wins. Same thing with the Bengals. Good, we get to rough up Joe Burrow. And then Dallas Cowboys and then the LA Rams. You see, that's something you don't want to see.
Oh, so they're going to take on they're taking on the NFC West just like the Jets. That should be very interesting.
Yeah, so let me just see how the Giants let me just show you how the first set of games of the Giants works. You get to start at Baltimore.
That's a tough place.
Then
you gotta really be ready for Baltimore.
Yeah, you gotta be at Baltimore. Then you're at
Soldier Field.
Then you're at Cincinnati. Then you're at Dallas, and then you're at LA.
Am I reading that right? 4 road games in a row?
Yes,
what?
4 road games in a row, ladies and gentlemen. At 5.
I cannot believe they will do a schedule like this. 4 road games in a row. That's insane.
And then
that is insane.
And then you have Dallas at home, Philly at home, Washington at home, Arizona at home, the 49ers at home, Cleveland at home, Pittsburgh at home, Tampa Bay at home.
And then the last 3 on the road.
And then the last 3 games on the road, at Philly, at Seattle, at Washington.
Well, I figure this schedule will be jumbled. This schedule will be shuffled, I think, a little bit. This can't be the actual lineup in order here. It can't be.
No, it can't be. I'm gonna try to find this again.
But these are these are the road games that they're gonna. So the first 5 road games, the last 3, those are the 8 road games the Giants are gonna go to. So going to Philly, Seattle, Washington, to Baltimore, Chicago, Cincy, Dallas, and Los Angeles. That's a pretty tough 8 places to play if you're the Giants. That's not easy.
Yeah, and supposedly they released the 2021 and 2022 schedules as well.
Yeah, I saw the same for the Jets. Again, I don't want to speculate.
And once again, even in the 2021 schedule, you're seeing road game. What is all this?
This is not finalized. This has not been finalized.
No,
of what games are what.
Yeah,
it's
obviously, but it couldn't have been that. I mean, I guess they're trying to figure out where to put what teams and all that at that point. I know the games that you see at home are the ones that are scheduled, but no, this really looks. That does not make sense. Hold on.
Let's believe it. When we get a little closer to the season, we'll know for sure. And the curious point I guess we all have is, will the season start on time during the... Oh, here, I got the... No, this is from last year. They don't have... Yeah, 2020 is not up yet, but... Yeah, but the 8 road games that we mentioned are correct. So the Ravens, Bengals, all those are all going to be the road games for 2020. But we don't have the schedule. Yeah, but the order of the schedule doesn't get released yet. Not until, I'd say about mid-May we'll have an answer to the schedule. By about May into June.
Yeah, so...
As we get a couple months toward the season, we'll know.
Well, at least now we have a list of 2020 opponents. So
yeah.
Our home games are going to be Arizona, San Francisco, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Dallas, Philadelphia, Washington. Our away games will be the Ravens, the Bengals, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Redskins.
So your Giants will get their first look at Tom and Gronk this year. That's going to be great. What do you think of that?
Well, you know what? Beating Tom Brady was always a favorite pastime of mine, so I'll just have to find a way to enjoy it in a new way.
Well, speaking of the NFL, and I think it's very interesting that we bring up a lot of the other sports, is we're about, yeah, man, time flies when we're having fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're about 2 months. We're about 2 months and 10 days into official quarantine in New York City.
Yeah. So now the question will be for, like, say, for the NFL, are they going to start on time, especially based on how COVID-19 is going? Now, right now, there could be, we already had the virtual draft, which was something the NFL never did with the NFL draft, having it not at the Nashville or not having it at the Barclays Center, having it like with a crowd. So that was a first that was very different. But the other plans could be starting the season late, if depending on how Corona goes. The schedule makers, I'm reading this off the New York Post, are in the process of designing several versions of the 2020 slate, some of which include a Super Bowl as late as the last day of February, the regular season starting as late as October 15th, and a season without bye weeks or a Pro Bowl.
Well, that makes sense, but you would have to see the players sign off on no bye week. That will never, ever happen.
No.
Let me just say that straight away. That will never happen.
Yeah. But the schedules are expected to be released. All the NFL schedules will be out as early as next month. So I was correct. May or so is when they release them. And we'll see the 16 games, 17-week slate. And we'll see how this all kind of pans out going into the 2020 season. And again, if it will start on time. Right now, we're waiting to see other sports. Which ones could be the first ones to come back and reopen during the current COVID pandemic? Right now, the NBA is starting to reopen some of their practice facilities, particularly in Atlanta, which has now lifted its lockdown
on
and are now reopening.
On Friday, you'll see probably San Antonio, Houston also go back to work because Texas is coming back.
Yep.
What other states are we having removed from lockdown?
Nashville could be coming back. Tennessee. So the Titans could go back and practice.
Tennessee, the Carolinas. So
the
Bobcats.
Panthers. Yep, the Panthers. Oh, the Hornets now. No more Bobcats. They went back to being the Hornets.
Oh, they're the Hornets again?
Yeah, they've been the Hornets for a little while. Remember, the New Orleans Hornets then became the New Orleans Pelicans.
Look, guys, the Knicks have been terrible for about 20 years, and the Nets aren't that much better. So, yeah, NBA is starting to become one of those sports where I vomit in the bucket when I think about it.
Yeah.
The last time I watched the NBA, and with really any real excitement, Michael Jordan gave me nightmares, and then the Knicks didn't put anyone around Stephon Marbury or Carmelo Anthony. So, after the Carmelo disaster, I kind of just went, that's it. I just threw my hands up.
That's true. So, yeah, this will be very interesting to kind of see, if the NBA comes back, and how ironic, the NBA was the first team to stop their season because a player tested positive for COVID, and that put their season on hold, and then other sports closed right after them.
Well, I got a conversation.
If the NBA comes back, could others follow?
I got a conversation that nobody wants to have until the NBA season is back.
Yep.
What should happen to Rudy Gobert when he decided to go and touch every microphone and whatever else in order to make fun of the COVID-19 pandemic, which a couple of days later we found out that he was inflicted with?
Yeah, trust me when I say this. Whatever Rudy Gobert did, even though he apologized for it, he made up with the media, said, I'm going to help people now. He already dealt the damage he did to the Jazz, and they're going to find some way to get rid of him.
Rudy Gobert destroyed sports in 2020. He was the first to get
That's kind of a little bit of a mean thing to say.
He was the first to get diagnosed with coronavirus. And because of his ridiculous actions with the media and the equipment that the media uses, they had to shut down the NBA. Because the person who was making fun of coronavirus by touching microphones was the first player to get it. I'm not saying obviously this is his fault. I'm saying obviously it isn't his fault that coronavirus has spread all over the country. But his actions plus his diagnosis like a day or two later literally were the catalyst for the NBA to cancel. Then once the NBA canceled, the NHL canceled. A couple of days later, spring training stops. And, and here we are in quarantine ashore.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm sure Rudy Gobert will have plenty of time to answer for his actions as we go here.
Well, what should happen to Rudy Gobert? You see, that's my question. Do you suspend him?
That's a very good question. I mean, the coronavirus, you can do all the right things compared to what Rudy did, and you could still get the virus. You can do all the right things of disinfecting your home and not touching surfaces, and you could still contract it. So, I mean, I think if anything, and the fact that Rudy Gobert had to go on a long Twitter and, go out in front of the public and apologize for his actions. And, for one, I hope Rudy Gobert is humbled by what he did. Let's begin with that. But I think, the fact if the Jazz don't bring him back, and I don't think him and Donovan Mitchell have kind of made up after what happened. Donovan Mitchell didn't appreciate Gobert's actions. And I don't know. So I think that bridge could probably be burned regardless of how many times Gobert apologizes. So either way, one of those two will not be a Jazz after this year. Someone's going to leave. I don't know who it'll be. If Gobert has to run the team by himself and then you see the weaknesses of Utah exposed, that Donovan Mitchell was not the weak link. It was Rudy.
Well, now my question is this: even if Gobert is a member of the Jazz or not, should Gobert be suspended by the league at all? Should he suffer any sort of suspension? Look, and here's the thing. Mm-hmm. This is as bad as that hit that we saw last year where I forget the guy's name at the moment, who is suspended indefinitely until this beginning of this season, so he really didn't get suspended very long. Miles Garrett, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, Miles Garrett, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Miles Garrett. What Gobert did was actually more dangerous to more people.
Well, yeah.
What Gobert did was more dangerous to more people. Donovan Mitchell is one victim of Rudy Gobert. How many members of sports media or Jazz media coverage or whatever teams that the Jazz were playing, those reporters, those beat writers, how many of those men and women got sick? All because Rudy Gobert decides like a jackass to cough on microphones and touch things when there's coronavirus going around. I mean, I understand you feel like a jackass because you caught the virus. If he didn't catch the virus, people would have been like, "Oh, how funny was that?" That's not funny. It wasn't funny if he didn't have corona, and it's especially not funny because he did.
Well, here's what I have to read. I have a little read right here from Bleacher Report, and this is about a week ago now. As of now, the Jazz currently have no plans to move Mitchell or Rudy Gobert. So they have no plans at this moment to move any of them, to move either.
So what is the NBA saying about Rudy Gobert?
There haven't been any. There really hasn't been any discussion about this. But the fact that both him and Mitchell got cleared of the virus after both of them had it, I still think maybe I could see a fine down the road. Maybe maybe like a mini. I wouldn't say you suspend him for the whole year. Maybe suspend him a couple of games if it really gets to that point. But he didn't. Here's the thing, though. Not too many NBA. There were some NBA players that had the virus, yes, but it didn't spread to like the entire NBA. And he infected like 300 other players with the virus.
How do we know that?
Only a couple.
How do we know that? How do we know who he infected?
We knew about the four Nets that had it. We knew about a couple of the Lakers that had it. We knew that Gobert and Mitchell had it. Roughly about 10, 12, maybe about a dozen or so players had the virus in the NBA.
A dozen or so players, and then how many reporters got coronavirus due to that incident?
We will never know. They never came out admitting that they had it, but it's very possible Gobert could have spread it to them. We don't know.
I'd say for every reporter, staff member, and NBA player that was infected with coronavirus due to direct contact with Rudy Gobert should suffer a game suspension for each person that he infected. So if he's infected 12 people, he's suspended for 12 games. If he's infected 30 people, he's suspended for 30 games.
Oh, here, I'm going to read this as well. This is a few weeks back. from March 12th. This is a while back. But they said Rudy Gobert at the time would not face discipline for actions prior to his diagnosis.
Yeah, to me, that's a completely ridiculous thing because knowing what the pandemic is and understanding what was being reported about it, March 12th, we knew what this was. We knew this was a devastating, deadly virus that the country was not prepared for, that everybody else seemed to be, but that we seemingly were not prepared for here in this country. People knew how serious this was. This was not a joke. We needed people who we need people like Rudy Gobert to be a beacon of what you're supposed to be doing. Like, okay, you don't go around and make fun of a global pandemic when it's a global pandemic. And by that time, it was already called a global pandemic.
So now I guess it brings me to this. I mean, with everything that's happened now, and ironically, the NBA was the first sport to shut down because of COVID. Could they be the first sport to come back? If they're already starting to talk about, hey, we're going to start getting the players maybe to go to facilities and start getting, get back in game shape here, could that be a very good sign of possible things to come?
So my question is this: how, where, who, where are we going to put the teams? Where are the players going to be? Who's going to be actually playing? Who's actually going to come back and risk themselves getting COVID? Who's going to do any of these things? Has there even been a halfway semi-logistical plan came up with whatsoever at all? Has anybody even come up with anything yet?
Yeah, I mean, other than what I read about about a week ago, with when Adam Silver brought up the idea of wanting to finish the rest of the season and then start it in December, depending how late it goes. That's about really one of the only first few plans we've heard. If Atlanta is really talking about reopening, it depends. But at least here, I'm reading this little piece here from Steve Kerr, the Warriors head coach. This is for Golden State because their season was over. So I don't know if I want to base it off of that. But Kerr seems to think the NBA season may be canceled, even if the season were to resume.
Yeah, he would love to
This is from Steve Kerr.
Yeah, he would love to just, forget that this 2020 season ever happened and have it be known as, the quote-unquote lost season, so that this way, he doesn't have to worry about, oh, my team had one of the worst records in the league, and of course he wants the season to end because, I think if the season ends, isn't Golden State one of the top chances to get the number one pick in the draft lottery?
Yeah, very possible. I mean, as I go through more of this little piece here, it's on MSN Sports. He mentioned basically, the article is unlike Major League Baseball and the NFL, the NBA is in a time crunch. The 2020 NBA draft is coming up in June. If the season doesn't get going, it pushes back the entire calendar for next year. And then the NBA was also hoping to have widespread testing so it could return in Las Vegas without any crowd. But based on how slow it's taking for the testing and all to happen, the future of the NBA for this year is very much in a doubt right now.
Well,
we don't know.
They're starting to ramp up testing in a lot of areas. They're starting to ramp up testing in a lot of places. I've been getting emails we're in New York, right? So I've actually been getting a lot of emails from urgent care is now offering COVID and antibody tests. And they're starting to do widespread testing now. People are able to walk in and possibly get an antibody test, possibly get a COVID test without having to worry about exposing themselves to the hospital or anything like that. So basically, at this point now, I'd say you're not going to see pro sports for at least another month, at the very least.
Wow.
Because, one, you have to get all of these players tested. Two, you have to figure out a plan. Where are they going to lodge? Where are they going to be? They have to be able to be quarantined. So you need a place that they can actually all go and play. You need stadiums to host triple headers. You need to staff those stadiums. You need to get television personnel. NBA is not a game where you could wear an N95 mask and actually play it.
Oh, or wear gloves dribbling the basketball. That can't work either.
Exactly. So it's not a sport that you could really play socially distant or safely without transference of bodily fluids, sweat and everything being in the air. Somebody cough because they get hit.
Or rake somebody's eye with your hand. You can
Yep.
rake someone in the eyes. Yeah, very
Yep.
possible.
You're literally putting COVID right in their hands, right in their face. What are they going to do? Wipe down the basketballs every play with
That'd be
sanitizer?
crazy, yeah. They couldn't. Yeah. So I could probably not see the NBA coming back. I don't know if baseball could come back. They seem to, they're trying to keep our hopes up. Maybe baseball could return at some point.
Look,
but then you're playing an abbreviated season.
Look,
and you're playing an abbreviated year.
Look, dude, but if the NFL draft did anything, and I think we should end on this note.
Yeah.
If the NFL draft did anything, it proved that this country is so starved for sports content that it's unbelievable. This NFL draft, I believe, was the most watched NFL draft in the history of them televising it ever.
Wow.
By a large margin. I think it was something like, by about 4 to 5 million viewers, or whatever the numerical equivalent is to that. More than last year, what the average viewership of the draft is. So this country is starved for sports content. So here's the thing. If we could get them back up and running safely, I'm down. But I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not a doctor.
I got the numbers here if you were curious. So each day of the NFL draft for this year had new highs, as you said. 15.6 million viewers watched round one on Thursday, which was 37% higher than a year ago. 8.2 million watched the second and third rounds, and then 4.2 watched the remaining 3 rounds.
By the way, all
of it up 30% from last year.
Yep.
Incredible.
Unreal, right?
Yep. I just hope that the draft may have served as a beacon of hope that sports could eventually soon return.
Just to give you all a sense of perspective of how starved this country is for sports.
Mm-hmm.
The first day of the NFL draft had how many viewers?
The first round of the NFL draft from this year?
Yes.
15.6.
15.6, and that's up from 30%. The Super Bowl gets 100 million eyes on it every single year, right? Mm-hmm. This was one of the lower watched Super Bowls. So you're not seeing any numbers over 10 million watching the NFL draft in the first place. All 3 of those days ranked higher than the weekly average rating of WWE Monday Night Raw over the past 5 years, of SmackDown over the past 5 years. Yep. Monday Night Football gets less ratings than that. Sunday, sometimes some of your regular games at 1 p.m. on a Sunday get less eyes on them than that.
Yeah.
That is how starved we are. We literally did 15% of Super Bowl views on the first night of the NFL draft. Over the 3 days of the NFL draft, ladies and gents, we literally caught 30% of the viewership of the Super Bowl. That's how starved we are for sports in this country. So,
with that, that's going to conclude our podcast of Downtown Sports. You can listen to us live on Anchor, Spotify, on Pocket Casts, Breaker, and now, just got the alert, we are now available also on Radio Public as well.
Oh, yeah.
So we're building our audience, ladies and gentlemen. We want you to listen to our message every single week. We will have rants. We will have shows every week on Anchor. And we just hope, like all of us, sports will return. For the mouth of the South, John Schiavone, I'm the Beast of the East, Jonathan Pariente, saying good night to you all. We'll see you next time.